Let's go. I absolutely love lobster rolls. I've probably eaten hundreds of them. They just scream summertime food to me. And there really are two different kinds, a Connecticut style, served warm, drenched in butter on a toasted bun, and the other, a Maine lobster roll, served cold in mayonnaise, a little bit of celery, and a few other things. Regardless, I flew in some live lobsters because I want to put them side by side and see which one I like most. Sound good? Let's cook. What's in the box? Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Seriously though, let's see what we got. Cousin. All of the lobsters that I have are 1.5 pounds and from Maine. Now, each of these will produce enough meat to make about 2 lobster rolls. And Maine is considered the best place in the entire world for fresh lobster because of their tender, sweet meat. And they're actually a bit less salty because of the really cold waters that they're in. Now, when it comes to preparing and cooking live lobsters, it's just not easy to do. I'm not cool with really taking the life of anything that's still breathing. Except spiders. I'm absolutely 100% okay with that. I hate spiders. But it's not easy. It's hard. And I think it's meant to be hard for a reason. One of my favorite chefs that I ever worked for, he told me it's important on occasion to take the life of the food that you're going to eat. And really this helps you not just like honor the animal and try to use every piece of it so that it's completely utilized and none of it goes to waste, but it's to help you understand what you're doing. So oftentimes you really desensitize. You walk into a grocery store, you see pork chops, you see ground beef, you see chicken, but you forget about that those are cows and those are pigs and those are chickens. So it is a live creature, and the best way that I know how to do this is either split it with a knife from the head down, kind of like I did in one of my lobster videos, or we put them in the freezer for about 30 minutes. That sort of knocks them out a little bit and puts them in a daze. And then we put them head first in boiling water. So we're gonna pop these guys in the freezer. I'm just gonna add those lobster tails right to a sheet tray, and they're going in the freezer for a good 20, 30, maybe 40 minutes to again, just sort of let them relax and cool out. In the meantime, I'm going to add a large pot of water right to the burner. We wanna crank the heat on to high and bring it to a boil. There needs to be enough water in the pot so that the lobsters can be completely submerged and not too crowded. Now, once the water is boiling, we are gonna pull out the lobster and just let them sit for about 3 to 4 minutes or so. And then we wanna season up the water heavily with enough salt so that it tastes like the ocean. This is to help season up our lobster that, again, isn't as salty as other lobsters around the world. Next up, the hard part, we're just gonna add those lobsters head first into the water to make sure they pass on as quick as possible. And lobsters boil for about 4 minutes per pound. And since these are 1.5 pounds each, we're looking at about 6 to 7 minutes until they're finished. And let's just say you don't have live lobsters, but you do have lobster tails. These will boil in the same salted water for about 4 to 5 minutes and will look the exact same color and have the exact same firmness as those other lobsters. And just to give you another option, perhaps you want to steam these. You want to fill a pot with about 2 inches of boiling water, add again enough salt so that it's as salty tasting as the ocean, put in your basket, then add the lobster right in there. We're going to add on the lid, and this will steam for 8 minutes per pound, so these should be finished after about 12, 13 minutes. Just want to give you all the options. Now let's head back over to our large pot of water. I'm going to remove the lobsters here one by one, and then what I want to do is shock them to immediately stop the cooking process. So I'm going to completely submerge them in a large container of ice water. Then, of course, I don't want to forget about the steamed lobster, so I'm going to go back, grab that one, and put it right in there. These look fantastic. The color is spot on, and the meat is cooked to perfection. Those cook times are going to be crucial to having success, to making sure these are delicious. Now, we don't want to let them sit in the water for too long because they can become waterlogged. So no more than 7 to 8 minutes, we're going to come back and remove them and just set them to the side on a sheet tray or even a platter. And now let's chat about removing all of the parts of the lobster before shelling them.
We're going to grab a hold of the tail, stretch it out, and then just twist it until it comes off. Now for the claws, you do the exact same thing. Just give them a twist and they will pull off. Then last up, the lobster legs. I know there may seem like there's not a lot of meat in there, but I promise I've got a cool trick to show you how to get these completely out of there. Then at the end, you should have a lobster body, a tail, 2 claws, and 10 total legs. First off, for extracting the meat from the lobster tail, just squeeze the underside together. You'll hear this crack from the top of that tail all the way down to those tail fins. Next, flip it over and then pull back where you press together. This will help expose the meat, then simply use your hands and pull it out. Now, these weren't cheap, so I want to get all the meat out as possible. So those tail fins, you can give them a little twist and pull, and you'll see a little bit of meat in each fin. Now for the claws, we're really just going to separate where the joint connects to that pincher claw, then taking the bottom part of that pincher, just wiggle it back and forth and gently pull it out where you'll see some of that claw meat still intact. Then I'm going to put it on its side. Then using the back side of the knife or spine, I'm going to make several cracks in the claw, and then I'm carefully going to remove the shells to make sure I keep as much of that claw meat intact as possible. That's the good stuff right there. And just as a note of caution, watch out for this thin piece of cartilage within the pincher. Sometimes it comes out and sometimes it doesn't. If it does not, just simply pull it out and remove it. Now for the remaining parts of those claws, again, just going to hit them with the spine of the knife, cracking them open and removing all the meat. I love this little lobster knuckle meat. It's sweet. It's really, really good. And I have to say, it can be sometimes a pain trying to remove all of this meat. So instead of using a knife, some good kitchen shears can go a long way to giving you a hand. And then for the bodies, where the head is, just simply pull up on that top shell, and immediately you're going to wonder, what is this? All this funky green looking stuff in here, it's known as the tamale, and it functions as the liver and pancreas of the lobster, so it filters out everything in its environment. Now it is tasty and it is considered a delicacy, even though it's kind of looks pretty nasty. But there are some health concerns because of what it does filter, so I would just err on the side of caution before eating it. And just a little FYI, if you flip that little lobster body over without the shell, you'll see the lungs. These are unfortunately inedible, so we're going to flip it back over and we're just going to spread the body apart. Now you're going to see a decent amount of meat in there that is really the underside of the lobster that connects to those little legs. Once it's cracked open, just take a few extra seconds and extract as much meat as possible. And if some of that undercarriage meat is a little bit funky, just dip it in a little water to rinse it. Now for the last and final leg meat extraction, using a rolling pin, start from the end of the leg and roll it forward to the opening where you pulled it off of the body, and you'll see that meat push right out there. Love this trick. And now that I've been splatter painted with every single thing that's in the lobster, what you may see here is shells and maybe trash. What I see is pure gold. The juice, all of this, will help you make the most unbelievable lobster bisque you've ever had. I learned it from one of the best chefs I've ever studied under. You have to check out that recipe video. All we do is add this to a bag, we label it, we date it, we throw it in the freezer until it's time to pull it out to make that lobster stock that turns into lobster bisque. As far as the meat is concerned, if there are some pieces on there that have a couple little smudges of that tamale, just give it a rinse in more depth under some cold water. Then all we're gonna do is cut it up. Starting with this claw meat, for me, I like it big and intact like this. You can absolutely cut it down if you'd like. For the tail, I'm just going to quarter it, or if you want, you can cut it into eighths. I think of very large bite-sized pieces here. Okay, let's get to making some of our lobster rolls. The first one being our Maine style. I have 2 ribs of celery, which I want to small dice. Remember, the lobster is the hero, and we want this little bit of vegetable to complement, not overpower. So dice it as small as you can. Now, celery is a main component of this lobster roll, so what you can do is substitute with 2 teaspoons of celery seed. We're going to add that to a bowl. Next, for the mayonnaise, you can add as little as 2 tablespoons or all the way up to 1/3 cup or 5 1/3 tablespoons, depending on how much you like mayo. I've got an awesome homemade recipe if you want to make it to make this lobster roll that much better. Then we're going to squeeze the juice of 1/2 lemon in there, which totals about 1 to 1.5 tablespoons. Now using a spoon, just mix all of those ingredients together. We want to give it a quick season of coarse salt. Of course, taste it, make sure it's delicious. And at this stage, I'm going to add the lobster meat from 2 total lobsters, or about 12 to 16 ounces. This should easily make about 4 total lobster rolls. Then using a rubber spatula, gently fold all of the ingredients together. This is kind of like Maryland jumbo lump crab cakes. You don't want to break up those big pieces of lobster. That's what makes this sandwich that much better. And you know me, I make food to see people smile. And I promise you, when they see that big chunk of lobster, they're going to be all in. And at the end, taste it, make sure it's delicious, and briefly set it to the side for a little quick halftime break because we're going to toast up some buns. Now the classic bread to use is a New England bun, which is simply a potato bun that is split on the top. Or of course you could use a regular hot dog bun, or a brioche split top bun will work well also. These usually come molded together because they're baked together, so once you pull them apart, generously spread on some softened unsalted butter on both sides of where that bread was torn apart from one another. Then we're just going to place it on a grill over medium heat until toasty brown, which takes about 1 to 2 minutes per side. And yes, you can absolutely do this in a cast iron skillet. And that little toast on there just gives it more flavor. Now for lobster roll number 2, or Connecticut style. In a large 12-inch saute pan, I'm going to add in 1 1/4 sticks of softened unsalted butter. Remember, always unsalted because I want to control the sodium content. We are going to crank the heat down to low. We want to melt this butter and glaze the pan. So we are going to swirl this around in a circular motion to sort of emulsify the butter, so that the butter fat and the salt and the water are all mixed together, because this is what butter's supposed to taste like. We do not want it to break, which can happen around 158 degrees. So the goal is to keep it below that. And even at that low of temperature, it will be plenty hot to heat up the lobster to where we want to be. And I can never say it enough, just simple basic techniques like this of glazing the bottom of the pan, when you put these things into practice, it always makes you a better cook. You've got this, my friends. We're going to add the same amount of lobster, about 12 to 16 ounces, or the meat from 2 total lobsters. Then we're going to squeeze on the juice of 1/2 lemon, again in between 1 to 1.5 tablespoons. And just like the other one, using a rubber spatula, gently fold it together over low heat, just until the lobster are coated, the butter is still emulsified, and then the lobster is nice and warm. Now we're going to try some out, make sure it's delicious. If it needs a little bit more salt, we are going to sprinkle it in there and mix it together gently. So everything's done, let's plate these beauties up, beginning with our main roll. We're going to add that mayonnaise and celery tossed lobster right in the center of that split top toasted up bun. And I always like to put a big old claw meat right on the top. And just to let people know, yeah, I'm eating a lobster roll. Now for the second one, we do the same process right in that split top bun. You can see all that delicious butter in there. Again, I like to hook it up with a claw at the end, drizzle on a little bit more butter. And this is optional, but I like to finish this one with a little bit of thinly sliced chives. Let's get in this Maine style first. What can you say? I mean, it's ridiculous, right? It's lobster and it's mayonnaise and celery. What's wrong with that? Let's see if it's got it for Connecticut. You know, now the Maine version, super good. But once you try the Connecticut version, you see the difference, like a big difference. The mayonnaise really covers up that lobster flavor in the Maine style lobster roll. But when it's just drenched in butter and it's a little bit warm, like it's just so lobster forward. The meat's tender, it's sweet, both good. I mean, I've had both these, like I said, hundreds of times, but gosh, I gotta tip my hat to the Connecticut version because that's the one. That's the ticket. This is it. Now, if you love seafood as much as I do, I've got a killer sea bass recipe. It is so good. It's got little Mediterranean potato salads. You'll love it. I've got a great recipe video. I'll see you on there.